Good evening, everyone. We are online on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
Good evening.
Yes, this is our third online reading video of the Divine Order and the Universe, dear friends. And I start reading from where we left off last week. Mankind can see and understand the forms and states of a few rings of matter within certain limits of the motions that lie extended, in the chain of simplicity and complexity, between the lowermost and uppermost infinite points. When these forms and states reach a limit, in the sense of the scantiness or simplicity of their motions, as they are becoming primitive and descending, they start to move away from the perceptive field of human comprehension and eventually vanish completely. Similarly, as the rings of the chain of matter ascend and develop through motions which increase and become more complex, human comprehension again loses them completely after a certain point. This is because no human intellect or comprehension, which is bound to the brain substance of world matter, can comprehend the quality and quantity of the motions resulting in matter states that are neither below that limit nor above that limit. Therefore, mankind has been unable to afford to understand, other than a few rings in the infinitely extending chain of universe matter, and to make them the subject of tangible study pursuant to themselves. Nevertheless, the main reason that some people reject and deny the possibilities of some high material manifestations is just this. Well, it is a short paragraph, but we can talk about it for a long, long time.
Yes. Before I comment on this paragraph, I'd like to tell our friends something very important, which I forgot to do last week. Our friends, myself included, when I first read the book, automatically have the expectation that this is a spiritual communiqué, about spirits, and will tell us about hereafter, and about the spiritual states we don't know about. Yet, this first part is basic. Yes, as it gives fundamental knowledge, we may think that there is a spiritual subtext, or we read between the lines in this sense. In fact, so far, the book didn't give any information about the spirit. It eventually will, as we read on, but not so soon. That is, so far, we didn't talk about the spirit at all. Indeed, so far, the book talks about the basic, fundamental knowledge on matter. Why does the book do this? Is this a book of physics? Yes, it is a book of physics. This is what the book wants to mean or says to us, after all. Everything in the material universe is only made up of matter. This is why it is a book of physics. Yet, to convey its relationship with spirit, with spiritual development, and its place and usage within the process of the spiritual development, the book gives the basic knowledge of matter, of this material of matter in our hands. Later, the book will utilize this fundamental information to explain further topics. So, please consider this. When our minds get more confused, we can have a benchmark, which is my method, from some key words or key phrases about matter, to memorize, because they will be handy. For example, this one helped me whenever I got stuck. In the material universe, there is nothing else but matter. Period. There is no buts, ifs about this. So, later, when someone asks a question about the influences, about the spiritual communiqués, dreams, imagination, or the book itself, we must remember this principle works. Because of this, first of all, we must understand and internalize the knowledge given here about matter. We work for this end, that's all. There is no formula, we don't need a formula anyway.
And the most important thing is the book talks about our own universe. With us, our world, our solar system, our Milky Way galaxy, etc. We are trying to understand the universe we exist in. We emphasize this again and again, but sometimes new people are joining, or they miss that part, or when we look at the questions from you, we see that this part is overlooked. So, let's underline this again.
Yes. As we read on, we will see it will say, astronomic cosmos, and slowly it will be obvious that, the word, universe, has a more encompassing and comprehensive meaning than we could imagine and think. For example, what the book termed as the astronomic cosmos, is what we call space, where the Milky Way galaxy exists, the whole greater space system, and the book places this astronomic cosmos in the scale of the hydrogen atom cosmos. We see the planets because naturally, we live in the hydrogen atom cosmos, and the vibrational frequency of the molecules of planets is in the visible spectrum. Way lower and way higher than the astronomic cosmos, there are other cosmoses that we can't even express with the word vibration, and these will be explained gradually. Now, at this paragraph we just read, we can think such an example. On the internet, there is a hearing test, maybe you saw it on Facebook as well. There is a sound starting from very low frequency to very high frequency, and you can hear only a part of the whole scale, if you remember it. It was also stated there, you will not hear before this certain frequency, and after that certain frequency.
As science says, our hearing interval is between 20 and 20.0 Hz.
Ah, bravo! So, what does it mean? Let me also mention this so we understand it better. Let's think an atom slightly moving, vibrating. Beware, it is not the frequency. Just a vibrating atom. And another atom or being to detect or see it, that atom and the other should be in the same frequency, be in resonation. They should be resonating to be vibrating in the same frequency. What were the names of the bones in our ear? Do you remember? Whatever. Hearing is a perception that occurs when those bones, those structures are resonated with those frequencies. In short, in all of our universe, in the hydrogen atom cosmos, we can sense if our perception is in harmony with the motions of matter. We sense or perceive whatever we are attuned or resonated as a frequency. We even use this concept as we understand or talk about the events in life. Such and such things always find me. Because your vibration is such. You completely vibrate in that way and you can resonate with that event, otherwise, there are many other kinds of events around you. So, that thing doesn't find you, you go and find it. You can only see or perceive it. Or can we hold Wi-Fi waves in our hands? Right now, I am using Wi-Fi in this room, can I touch them? No. Because our frequencies are not the same. I can't, it's impossible. But the molecules on the antenna in my computer are in a level allowing it to be same with them. It is modulated as such, so it can catch these waves. Likewise, the radio waves work in the same way. This is called modulated or demodulated in the electronics.
That is, here, it sets a limit between the lowermost and uppermost, but also define these extending as infinite points. Last week we had talked about simplicity-complexity by giving examples of water, iron, or uranium. So, because mankind can see and understand the forms and states of a few rings of matter within certain limits, I listed a few of these certain limits for this evening. For example, our eye can see frequencies between 400–700 nanometers. Yet as human we can see these interval. An eagle can see better than we do. We already mentioned hearing, between 20–20.0 Hz. Again, a dog can hear a wider spectrum of frequencies than we do. Our speaking voice is between 500–2,000 Hz. MISRS wrote the name of those vibrating bones of the ear: hammer, anvil, stirrup. And because they vibrate, make a motion we can hear by perceiving the states created by those motions. On the other hand, even at the most developed point, our cutting-edge technology provides us with space telescopes, etc., we still can only see or detect between certain frequencies. Consequently, in the universe there is a chain of matter, and we can only perceive a certain part of it. And here, the book mentions this peculiar inclination of mankind, ignoring things that cannot be seen, felt, or perceived. So because of this, you do not accept them, it says. Were the radio waves non-existent before we discovered them? They existed, but only when we have the gadget to receive and transmit them. We utilize those waves, means that there are so many other things we didn't discover still. Yet we know now there is an immense spectrum of matter in states, appearances, and forms. And as the book says, matter below that limit, nor above that limit, vanishes completely. They only vanish from our perception. In fact, all those matters, be it rough or fine, still vibrate and exist. So, let's underline this fact. Human perception loses them after a certain limit.
They do not strike our perception.
Yes, we are limited with our five senses after all. Yet, in the further parts of the book, it will talk about telepathy, so we will be explaining such senses other than our known five sense organs with the concept of frequencies. I would like to share some info with our friends about the frequencies of our brains, because the book mentions human intellect or comprehension, which is bound to the brain substance of world matter. So, for example, our brains vibrate maximum 50 times vibrates between 150 Hz and produce brain waves or signals between 0 to 100 microvolt. And these signals, if between 1235 Hz, are called beta waves. If between 813 Hz, then are called alpha waves. If they vibrate between 48 Hz, they are called theta waves. In theta, we are in that state between sleep and waking. And if they vibrate between 0.54 Hz, they are called delta waves. If these vibrate higher, between 35-100, then these are gamma waves. In our lectures, we say that when we close our eyes and turn inward, our brain produces alpha waves, our visualization gets stronger. In our daily life, our brain waves go back and forth between alpha and beta. When we are in deep sleep, we are in delta, etc., etc. So, our brain substance, no matter how many new discoveries made about our brains, is still limited with those frequencies. And because human comprehension is bound by these within this hydrogen structure, within this current cross-section of it, the divine order and the universe tells us that you can't understand other than a few rings in the infinitely extending chain of universe matter, and to make them the subject of tangible study. We attained a certain level, but even though that stage is very important, it is still limited.
The level we reached is limited in the sense of perception, but in the sense of comprehension, it is a high stage. That is, we, as humankind, now attain the capacity of questioning, studying, and understanding. This is the difference. Yes, a dog's hearing or smelling is better than ours, but the dog can use these only in the way we trained him. In the sense of comprehension, human surpasses the dog. That is, in utilizing matter, human's comprehension regarding his ability for utilizing the possibilities of matter begins to increase. And the pandemonium starts there. That's why we ask questions, that's why we need religions, that's why our spirituality emerges, and our conscience begins to be developed. We begin exiting the automatic stage. All of these occur due to the emergence of the dimension of comprehension as we get out of the automatism.
Yes. As we mentioned as we began, that we will go into details of topics like how systems begin as automatic states, then pass to semi-comprehending states. Again, we had discussed that in this hydrogen cosmos, because we have such limited perception systems to give meaning to things within this universe, this hydrogen cosmos, attaining complete comprehension is impossible for us in our current level. Yet, even between the automatic and semi-comprehending state, there is an immense scale. And our intention here is to get out of this automatic state and to widen our semi-comprehension.
Exactly.
Shall we continue? In the path of universe's matter development, transverse from its initial matter state to our astronomic cosmos, there is a dark field which is impossible for mankind to understand. This field is but a coarse, dispersed, amorphous mass. In this crude milieu, there are no formations of constituted matter. After this field comes a range comprising the initial hydrogen atom that constitutes the beginning of the hydrogen cosmos. Although we use this word because mankind has named the first atom hydrogen, in truth the matter we have mentioned and from now on will mention in this context is not the hydrogen atom H that mankind knows. This atom known by mankind is a very developed, complex, and advanced state of the atom. Mankind do not yet recognize this first hydrogen atom. The matter states and forms of our world and of our whole astronomic cosmos, with its spheres, systems, nebulae, have been made of various combinations of developed states of this hydrogen atom. Below and above the elements which make up our world, there are such elements that are too distant from mankind's field of comprehension. These elements, which are among the most advanced stages of the Earth's atoms, which mankind does not recognize, display substance states which are of an utterly different makeup and quality to the atoms they know. If embodied beings, namely mankind, cannot utilize these states of matter through their comprehension, they often use them automatically through the help of superior beings. As a simple example of this, consider the thought vibrations that pass from one human to another. These thought vibrations are a matter state, beyond the matter that mankind recognizes and which exists on Earth. Similarly, what is named as pre-spirit and has been named variously by the various spiritualist schools on Earth but has been unable to be explained for ages is one of the matter states that exist on the world but which are not known by mankind. As examples of these, some matter energies that exist on the world but which are again not recognized by mankind are sympathy, love, antipathy, begrudging, fear, joy, pride, envy, selfishness, which are explained away as subjective psychological states. Now, let's go back to the top. Here, first in the path of universe's matter development, transverse from its initial matter state to our astronomic cosmos. Last week, we already stated this distinction made in the book as the development of matter and the evolution of spirit.
Yes, here, the word development is important. We should automatically remember that the book means the development of matter in the universe by this word. This is the first. For this passage, I can say that, to astronomic cosmos, is our milieu of space, the whole and vast milieu of space. The astronomic cosmos that contains all the whole Milky Way galaxy, stars, solar systems. And if you noticed, the book puts it into a place in the scale. From its initial matter state to our astronomic cosmos points to the development of matter. From that crude state where matter is at the initial stages of its becoming, at its initial combinations to the occurrence of the milieu of space cosmos through myriad combinations. In the video we showed last week, as the scientist at the CERN talked about what they will do, we heard about quarks, leptons, bosons. These are bonding forces. These forces are named as particles in the particle physics, and fields, Higgs field. All of these make up combinations, and gradually build the proton, and the neutron of the atom. So, we are still in the territory of the particle physics. Here, the book talks about the emergence of the most basic particles and their interactions. And the main purpose of the collider experiments in the CERN is to detect these combinations, to understand how these combinations are made. That's all. So, starting from the tiniest particle, the proton in the nucleus of atom emerges, neutron emerges, later, electrons, and they are also particles, but due to Higgs field, electrons, even though very small, have a mass. That is, Higgs allows it, and if you like, you can give it other names. Yes, when electrons emerge, then a level is reached to make up the hydrogen atom. And after hydrogen atom emerges, then through myriad influences, high pressure, extreme heat etc. through many plasma events the stage becomes suitable for helium to emerge, hence the first molecules, or elements of the periodic table. Later, in different stars different atoms or elements emerge. The initial beginning is the hydrogen atom, the first element in the periodic table, and because of this, in the divine order and the universe we read that our universe is named as hydrogen cosmos. As we mentioned earlier, each matter has a vibration, a quality to be resonated with. Its quality is not only vibration. Vibration is only one of its properties that we know. Within the scope of the word motion, there is not only vibration. Yes, sometimes I say, if you see motion, understand it as vibration, but this is a property of the hydrogen atom cosmos. In higher levels, vibration becomes one of the simple properties that can be utilized. That is, there are many more properties of matter that we don't know yet.
As the book says, above and below we always talk about an interval, and they say, in your universe's beginning, there is a dark field which is impossible for you to understand. This field is but a coarse, dispersed, amorphous mass, and as we define the amorphous matter, We had underlined that it is matter that didn't receive any influence. They say that in your scale of perception, you can't know such a matter, you can't discover it, it is way beyond your comprehension. So we always talk about matter that received influence and formed. So as to your words, within our universe, in the emergence of our whole astronomic cosmos, yes, amorphous matter received influence, but all those forms, appearance didn't emerge right away. So even in the formation of first atom, the book says there is a dark field, which is impossible for mankind to understand. This field is but a coarse dispersed amorphous mass. But after that stage, things happened as you said. Here range is an important word. It implies a variation between certain limits, as if with the incoming influence there is an intended limit to reach. Later the book explains it within the context of the development of matter. Yes, we don't understand it due to our current level of comprehension, but we try to intuit.
When you mentioned this dark field, I remembered that there is a point I need to clarify. Now we know that 96% of the space, I mean the space as we measure, see and observe through our magnetic or laser telescopes, not the matter universe, is in fact made up of dark matter and dark energy, and around 4 or 5% is elements we know. So, a very low amount. Now, the rest of the space we call as dark matter and dark energy has a content or force that can influence the solar systems and galaxies in the space, and interact with celestial bodies. The only reason we call them dark matter or dark energy, I set aside the word dark mentioned in the divine order in the universe because it is totally different, is that we cannot measure or observe these through our current gadgets and tools. That's why we call it dark, meaning as unperceived, yet the dark field in the book is not that dark matter or dark energy. The dark here means the most basic level of matter. There is no planet, even the element itself is not emerged yet, element's nucleus isn't there yet, not even the particle of its nucleus, it is just about to happen. So, let's not confuse the dark in the book with the dark matter. It is understandable to confuse these. Even my first reaction was just like this, wow, the book even talks about the dark matter, but it was an emotional reaction. So, again, they are not the same.
Again, if we summarize the last week's comments, there is amorphous matter that has not received any influence, has no self-motion. After the influence comes to it, matter responds to it, yet even before matter responds and then gradually becomes the hydrogen atom, there is a coarse, dispersed, amorphous mass. Another important point is, in this crude milieu, there are no formations of constituted matter. Nothing that we can term as manifestation happens. However, with the coming influence, which has an aim to reach the hydrogen atom that will be the beginning of our hydrogen cosmos, matter responds. So, amorphous matter, then this dark field where no formations occurred yet, then the first influence, matter's response to it, and matter's getting gradually more complex. Well, here I must say that it is remarkable for human mind to theorize and write formulas proving the existence of dark matter and dark energy. Yes, matter gets more complex and developed by making combinations and reaches the point of making up the first hydrogen atom that we know as the first element of the periodic table. So, this is the sequence.
All right. Here, before the helium atom, there is hydrogen atom, you know. But even we go back to the helium atom, it has 2 neutrons and 2 protons. We see their nuclei, right now. Next, a little bit more developed and more complex. Carbon, 6 neutrons and 6 protons. And the next one is uranium. There is 92 protons and 143 neutrons in its nucleus. Of course, inside of each proton, there are many simpler particles, as well as of each neutron. In this way, in the periodic table, we see the sequence of more and more complex elements. Here, in the uranium atom structure, you see the electrons. See the complexity compared to the hydrogen atom. Needless to say, these electrons never collide with each other. The atom has such a high level of motion, such high level of vibration and also such a high level of complexity. Yet, when we look at the hydrogen atom, and this is the hydrogen atom. One proton, one electron. So, guess which one is more developed, which one has a higher organization? Can we display the uranium's pic? Thank you, the 3D pic is of uranium. When we see it, I think, there will be no confusion in our minds about what is simple, what is complex. Now, look at the developed state of the organization, the level of development. This is the constitution of uranium. Look at this complexity and combinations. This is what we call as development.
So, as we talked about simplicity and complexity, there were questions like why hydrogen, iron, and uranium are compared. So here, we wanted to show you some examples how the progress that begins with matters responding to the incoming influence that goes from simplicity to complexity, how matter attains formation. Let's go back to the book.
All right. Here, another interesting phrase is, as a simple example of this, consider the thought vibrations that pass from one human to another.
In the final analysis, this is our current conclusion. Our thoughts and ideas are also vibrations. And when we look at the end of this paragraph, even our emotions are vibrations. Here, sympathy, love, antipathy, begrudging, fear, joy, pride, envy, selfishness, etc. If there is a thought, there is also an accompanying emotion as well, and the emotions are reflected in the body as feelings, sensations. So consequently, everything is energy, everything is vibration. As the science detects these, now we have a duty, what to do for increasing our frequency. Everything is vibration. How will I preserve it? How will I increase it? How will I change it? Etc., starting from the words we speak to the thoughts we think, and to all kinds of impressions we expose ourselves to. I think everything we discover and learn give us more responsibility. Here a friend asked a question. Can you elaborate on paraspirit, so, if you like?
This is one of the terms we don't use anymore, yet our elders used and emphasized it frequently, which in fact, means a kind of appearance of the magnetic field, in the sense the book explains it. Similarly, what is named as periesprit and has been named variously by the various spiritualist schools on earth but has been unable to be explained for ages is, again, one of the matter states that exist on the world but which are not known by mankind. So, it is one of the matter states, again it is a kind of appearance of the communication or interaction between the being and the body. That is, a vibrational state of matter. I think, we can explain it like this.
Later the book will explain it when we revisit this topic. In fact, they talk about the magnetic fields here. We sometimes mention bioresonance, etc., and say each of us has a magnetic field, and we interact with each other through such fields. Our elders couldn't mean it like this, of course. Through recent scientific research, we now know that even the inanimate objects have a magnetic field. Also, we will talk about animation in the further pages of the book. Even a metal coin has a magnetic field as well as a leaf. All of us have magnetic fields varying from one thing to another. As you mentioned, this is a term that had been used in classic spiritualism to explain the intermediary milius between the being and the body. And now we understand better what perispirit means.
And before spiritualism coined this term, this was called spirit, saying, the spirit entered the body, etc. With the neo-spiritualism, Bedri Ruhselman changed this meaning with the books he wrote and the papers he sent to spiritualist centers of his time, explaining that this does not happen by a spirit entering a body but through magnetic interactions. That was the change neo-spiritualism initiated. No spirit enters a body but a spirit experiences through the influences over a body. And he explains this process as induction. This last sentence of this paragraph is so rich in meaning. As examples of these, some matter energies that exist on the world but which are again not recognized by mankind are, here you can think this term, matter energies, as magnetic fields emanated by matter. Sympathy, love, antipathy, begrudging, fear, joy, pride, envy, selfishness, which are explained away as subjective psychological states. In the parts about Plan of Duty, the book will tell us, as the beings pass to the subtle energy cosmos, how perceiving the states of matter as subjective states will end, and how we will begin to see the states of matter objectively, that is, as it is. If we take some ideas from that part of the book, we can say that, yes, those subjective psychological states are actually different appearance of matter's magnetic energy fields. We are so deeply immersed and embedded in those so-called subjective states that we are identified with them, we assume we are them, and life is only about them. Actually, these are nothing but the appearance of matter within our own reality. I wanted to emphasize this.
Actually, here, we are working to discover ourselves. As human beings within our human condition, we are trying to understand from where we came and are going to. Such a long journey we had so far, starting from that amorphous matter that has not received an influence yet to our today, where we talk about the distinctions between our so-called subjective or objective states, etc. So yes, it is an intense bombardment of knowledge in this book. Our friends write and say keep on reading, but we will start a new topic about universe. I think it is better to leave now. What do you say, Bilgehan?
Yes.
Alright, thank to everyone. Looking forward to see you next week at the same hours. Please keep on writing your comment on our YouTube page. We collect your questions and we'll try to answer them soon. So, good evening everyone.
Good evening.